Okay, so another White Shark Chronicles, folks, and this is a story. I'm gonna break into two pieces because I was working with National Geographic. In fact, what happened is that at this period of life, and this was in the 90s, late 90s, and into the early 2000s specifically. I was doing a lot of freediving with great white sharks because I was really trying to explore the interactions between the animal and the human. And I was exploring it just to see how the animal reacts underwater, and also I was also trying to find out if there was anything I could learn, which I could then pass on to other people, surfers and general water users out there, spear fishermen, etc., on what do you do if you are confronted by a large shark, especially a great white shark. And what actually inspired me to do this is that just before that, I started really getting into the whole white shark behavior point of view, freediving with them. I did an interview for a big surfing magazine, and there were guys like Robbie Seeger and I think Robbie Nash, kite surfers, and they did this interview on me, and I took them out to sea, and they were asking me all sorts of questions about what do you do if you're in the water and there's a big great white shark and you're out there. So I started thinking, well, let me learn more about this animal from that perspective. So what happened, a guy called Peter Lane Taylor, he was busy writing a book called Adrenaline Science, or a science to the extreme. And there were 10 chapters in this book, and I was one of the chapters. So the book was to do with myself, working at the extreme edge with great white sharks, and there were chapters on guys that work with avalanches, guys that work with tornadoes, guys that work with hurricanes, and people that work with volcanoes, that kind of thing. So extreme science, we're extreme scientists. So he came out to South Africa and he spent a couple of weeks with me, and we went freediving. I kept him near the boat because I don't take anybody freediving that's not experienced. I won't allow them far from the boat. So, he was in the water and he was taking photographs of me freediving with the great white sharks. Then he was obviously writing his chapter and asked me lots of questions. So after he left and his book was published, National Geographic brought out a 10-part series called, I think the series was called Adrenaline Science, or Adrenaline Scientists. And they sent out a crew. I can't remember which crew. It was a small crew. I can't remember which crew they sent out or which production company they sent out. But they landed in South Africa. And the conditions were perfect. I'd been out at sea the day before, and beautiful conditions. I mean, blue water, warm water, lots of great white sharks, perfect conditions. So I'd been speaking to them on the phone, and they had arrived in Cape Town, and I said to them, listen guys, the conditions are correct right now. And when you're freediving with great white sharks, the conditions have to be right. And you have to look at everything. You have to obviously look at the shark and decide, can I freedive with this animal or not? Because you have to understand their behavior and their movements. And there's certain sharks that I'll freedive with, and there are other sharks that I'm not going near that thing in the water because it'll turn me into a burger. And then you have to look at the conditions. The water conditions need to be pretty flat. Because when I'm talking about freediving, I've just got a snorkel, my wetsuit, my mask, snorkel, and fins, and a weight belt. So I don't want to be bobbing up and down and having water go into my snorkel and having to focus on that and not on the sharks. And then, of course, the visibility is extremely important because, you don't want to be in 1 meter of visibility with great white sharks and suddenly you look there and there's a shark in your face. So, but the conditions were perfect, 10 out of 10 conditions. So I said to these guys, they're in Cape Town, I said, listen, leave early. You got a 170 kilometer drive out to Gansbaai. I said, get all your stuff ready this evening. Hit the road early, and we can be on the water by like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, somewhere around there. I was checking the weather was good. And it was a typical film crew, hurry up and wait. And my one boat is out at sea with Mike Ladley on it, and he had students, marine biology students on my one boat, and they were working out there. And he kept phoning me, and he was saying, Craig, you got to get out here. The conditions are just perfect. And I'm going nuts. So I'm trying to phone the film crew, and the film crew are not responding. Cut a long story short, they eventually arrived there like, I don't know, 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And Cliffy's screwing with me. And they arrived there, and I just say, listen, guys, just get on the freaking boat. Get your shit onto the boat. Let's get going, because you don't know how long this window's going to last. And the weather in that area it's a Cape of Storms. It can change like that. And tomorrow can be bad weather, and then the visibility goes down, and then you're stuck. So, and they only had a week. They were only there for a week. And the conditions were perfect. So we head out to sea, and I told Mike, I said, you just wait there, wait till we get there, keep the sharks around, because he wants to come back now. So we head out, we get to where Mike is, we take over his position, and Mike takes off, and the sharks are there straight away. Immediately got this big shark around the boat. And she's beautiful, it's a female, and she's just gorgeous. So I just kit up, and by that time, unfortunately, there was a bit of chop because the wind comes up in the afternoon. So I kit up, and they get ready, and I get into the water with this beautiful animal. And so I'm staying quite close to the boat, because you have to first feel it out, and you also have to look for other sharks down there. You don't know what's in that water. You can have one shark circling, there's a bigger shark, and you can have 3 smaller sharks below you, or suddenly you can have another big one come up from nowhere. So I'm in the water there, and I'm looking around, and I'm getting myself comfortable in the conditions, and my heart rate slows down, because I don't want my heart going bang, 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 because the shark can actually feel it, and then the shark knows that I'm nervous, which gives the shark confidence, and I don't want to give the shark any confidence, so I just want to be in a nice setting with this great white shark. So she suddenly sees me, and she's like, what is this, And we're still chumming, so Cliffy's throwing chum out, and we got a bait out, but the bait's about 30 feet, 10 meters behind the boat. But the shark goes up and sort of haphazardly goes to the bait and comes back, and then goes to the bait again. But it's more interested in what I'm doing. But I'm really close to the boat, so it doesn't want to come too close for some reason. So I go a little bit further out, and then she starts coming in towards me. And here's me in the water, okay? Okay, I'm going to do it like this. Here's me in the water, and she will come like this, and she'll pass me like that, and off she goes. And then she'll turn slowly, and then she'll come back and pass me like that again. Beautiful. But at first, she passed me like a meter from me, and then the next pass was 0.75 of a meter. So I just kept my spot in the water, my position in the water, and I had my camera with me, my underwater housing, because that's good protection as well. So I'm filming, because I want to analyze the footage later, but it's also good protection. And eventually, she comes up, I'm here in the water, she comes past that close. I mean, literally her pectoral fin touches me like that. And I actually back away like that, and a pectoral fin comes past my stomach, and she's right here in front of me, right there. So I don't do anything the first time, I just film her, and all you see in the camera afterwards is just like this gunboat grey going past, you don't even see the rest of the shark, it's so close. And she goes down and she turns, and when she comes back, as she comes past me again, now she's trying to push me and she's testing me, but in a gentle way. And her pectoral fin comes right past and actually touches my belly, and I reach my hand out and I run my hand down the flank like that. And she sort of, she doesn't really like it that much, but she's not too worried. So she like kicks a little bit and off she goes. Now, here's the lesson in it as well, because you have to understand great white shark, their behavior. There's been a lot of late, there's been a lot of people jumping into water with great white sharks, and it's an accident waiting to happen. Because, first of all, it shows you that these animals are not these mindless man-eaters. However, if you don't understand the behavior, you don't know how they're reacting. And you got to be able to understand how they turn and how they look at you and how their posture. There's all these little things that come together that I don't even have to think about. I just see it and I analyze it and I know how to react without, what is she doing now? I just know. So it's become a sixth sense with me when you free diving with great white sharks. And the problem is that you can't turn and run. If something goes wrong in the water, you can't turn and run because then you're running from the predator. The prey is running from the predator. And that is why I would not take inexperienced people in the water with me free diving with great white sharks. So there's one thing you learn about great white sharks and their behavior is the way they turn. When they're relaxed, and so this girl will come like this, and imagine the lens right now is me in the water. You in the water. She'll come like this, and she'll turn slowly like that to the water. No problem, man. She'll swim off, and then she'll turn this way, and she'll come back, and her turns are sort of wide, and wide and slow, almost like a big airliner slowly turning around and circling over an airport waiting to come in and land. And when that's going on, it's fine. It's no problem whatsoever. But then they do what I call kicking. And the shark will come past like this, and as it turns, it doesn't turn that nice, smooth, large circle like that. It comes past and it goes, boom. It kicks it like, the tail goes, boom, boom, like that, whop, whop, in the water, and the shark spins, basically on its axis. And when they do that, they're on. Then you know game is on. So I'm watching her, I'm filming her, and she turns around and she kicks, boop, boop, like that. And she just comes straight at me. And I take my camera, and she's actually coming from this direction. So I take my camera, and she's right there. I mean, she's coming straight at me. It's a big animal. And I take the camera, and I don't want to damage the lens, the port, because the skin actually scratches that. So I take the camera and I lift like that and I pump on the side of the nose, boom, just to show her that I'm not afraid of her. And she flinches like that and off she goes. And I wait a little bit and she kicks around again and she comes back at me. So now she's not scared. She's got a lot of confidence, because even that bump she felt comfortable with it. She felt as if, okay, this is not something that hurt too much. And she comes back at me and I bang her a second time and then I get out the water. And then she settles down and she starts circling around and she goes and goes for the bait. So I get out the water and I stay out the water for about a minute and a half. And I watch her until she calms down. And I climb back into the water. And as soon as I'm back in the water, she's on me. But this time, she doesn't do all those passes. The first time I'm in the water for 10 minutes maybe, and she's doing all her passes and then she kicks. This time, she does it in half the time. It takes a couple of minutes. She does a couple of passes and suddenly she kicks and she comes straight at me again and bang, I bang her off with the camera and I push her away, and I get back out the water. And I just sit there and she calms down again. And she relaxes and she's going up the side of the boat. She goes up the starboard side of the boat and she circles around. She comes down the port side of the boat and she's right up by the boat. I mean, there were a couple of times that if this is the boat's hull, she was swimming like this, like touching the boat with her nose like that, and just trying to figure out what this is. And I get into the water again, but the third time I get into the water, it's on immediately. As I get in the water, she's coming at me. She actually tries a dummy run. She goes around, the bait's floating there, and she goes for the bait. So the bait's there, so she's going up towards the bait, and suddenly she just turns direction straight at me, and this chainsaw is coming at me, and now I've got my camera and she's straight on and boom, I bang her away like that. In fact, one time she caught the front of the camera and I actually got a beautiful shot of her coming straight in at the camera like that and bumping the camera, mouth not wide open, she's not at that point trying to attack me, but she's really pushing me, and she wants to get a taste of me. She wants to bite onto this thing and see what it is. And in those days, I was really fit and that, and super fit and sinewy, so it wouldn't have been a good meal. Anyway, so I get back out the water, and she circles around, and she circles, and she calms down, and next thing she dives. So I get back into the water. And now she's tried a different trick. She's come under me a couple of times, she's gone around, and she's even come around down the side of the boat, sort of trying to hide. We call it cloaking, the behavior. Trying to hide behind the boat, and then she'd suddenly be there on me. You know, she tried different maneuvers. So I'm in the water, I think, the fourth time. And she just disappears. She circles around, and then I see her. She comes up. She's gone down a bit deeper. She comes up. She checks me out. Comes towards me. Comes close to me. And then she disappears. Gone into the mist. She just disappears downstream. And I'm waiting and I'm watching. I'm waiting. And where is she? And I know that she's too curious not to come back. So I start looking down. And I'm looking down, and right on the edge of my visibility, on the periphery of the perimeter of my visibility, I just see her, and she's so camouflaged. The water's blue, and she's gone down there, and if you don't know what you're looking for, you wouldn't even see her. And it's just a little shadow, a movement, and she's down there, and I watch her, and she's circling, and she's circling, and she's circling, but now she can see better than I can in the water. She's got better vision in the water than I have. So they've got much better light, light sensitivity. So I'm looking down at this animal, and she realizes that I'm watching her. So she's trying stealth. Now she's trying to get into a position where I'm not watching her, when I'm not aware of her, and then she'll come up and take me out. So I watch her, and I watch her, and I watch her, and she realizes she's not going to get that cap, and she comes up again, and then I get out the water. So that was an incredible experience, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned in there, because it just shows you that these are thinking animals. I mean, the way they move, first of all, you have to understand the behavior. So they've got behavior which you can watch if you and analyze if you know these animals. But she didn't just come straight in and go at me. She tested me. She pushed me. She tried different little tricks. But she didn't realize that I understood what she was up to. And, you know, often you can bump an animal and they'll actually scoot off and they won't come back. But she was determined. Her personality was more determined, more focused. Then you'd have another shark that you bump that would actually turn around and grab the camera out your hand kind of thing. So you don't want to be in the water with that kind of shark. So she was one of those in the middle range of great white shark behavior. She wasn't that barroom brawler. She wasn't that nervously aggressive dog. She was calm and chilled and relaxed. And the whole thing built up. the confrontation with this beautiful animal built up. So eventually she takes off, and then she goes down. So she's trying different tactics. And that shows you a cognitive process taking place and an awareness of what she's up to and what she's doing. Anyway, so that was an incredible free dive. And the guys from National Geographic, the underwater guy was Jeff, the underwater cameraman. And he didn't get into the water with me. He was lying on top of one of the outboard engines, and he was filming me like that, and he got some really nice footage. And from the top, they got beautiful topside footage, because you could see me and the shark going right past me and turning on me and everything. But on one of the occasions, the third time I was in the water, and she really banged the camera hard. I came out the water, I put my camera on the dive platform, and as I came out, pulled my mask off, and I looked up, and the camera was right in front of me, in my face, and I said, "Don't try this at home." And that became the advertisement for this National Geographic series. It was my face coming out the water, a big grin on my face, and I'm saying, "Don't try this at home." So that's an awesome story. So the next story, I continue with the same crew, and It's just a beautiful story, and I'll tell you all about it in a minute.